when it comes to the advent of AI, there's an overwhelming and exponential increase in data flows from like everywhere. So data from AI requires that it come from anywhere and everywhere, not just databases and data centers. So yes, on one hand, multi-cloud is an absolute requirement because a lot of the customers and enterprises, they need to take data from A to B in different data centers or different locations or different. One cloud is for this and one cloud is for that, but not just that, not just from data centers, right? It also has to come from anywhere, a handheld device, a roving unit, a series of robotics, tablets, a meter.
As well as the databases of their supply chain or, the other tools that they leverage as part of their workflows.
Yeah. So it's now it's coming from anything that can produce ones and zeros.
Welcome to Bits, Bytes, and Beyond, the podcast that takes you beyond the buzzwords and deep into the real-world challenges of moving your data. I'm Trent Blakely, Head of Product Marketing at PCCW Global Console Connect. In each episode, we'll unpack a specific technical subject, break down what's really going on, and explore how to solve it. Whether you're a CIO, a network engineer, or simply the person who always gets asked, is it the network? Then you're in the right place. This isn't thought leadership, it's technical leadership. Now let's get into it.
Today my guest is Daniel Healey, Senior Technical Partner Manager at Console Connect. Dan has a great history. He's been in the game since '97 as a network engineer. He did time with Verizon. A lot of it's been in Asia. He also worked on the vendor side at Infinera, did some time on the sales side of engineering at BT. And then he worked for a smaller shop called Katon Technology, where he wore a variety of hats for about 6.5 years. And now here at Console, been here, almost 2 years now?
Yep, 2 years.
What did I miss from your background that might be relevant to our conversation?
No, it's funny you mention that. Yeah, so on the telco side for quite a number of years, everything from operations to pre-sales, and then like you said, being a vendor, and then being the customer, and now back to working in the cloud with Console Connect and with all the channel partnership. So yeah, you summed it up pretty well. It's quite funny being on both sides of the fence.
All right. Well, let's dive in. I think we're going to talk about a variety of things here, but it's largely around the market landscape as it relates to cloud providers, NaaS platforms, and service providers. How would you describe? There's a shift happening, and has been happening over the past couple of years. How would you describe that shift between these cloud providers, NaaS platforms, and service providers?
Oh, yeah. So I'd like to say it was less of a shift and more of a hop, skip, and jump from the end of 2024 until now. I mean, we saw it. We were going to these cloud events, and you saw the quantum shift of them labeling them as cloud events to labeling them as AI events. So cloud providers, NaaS platforms, and service providers, they've been all hosting kind of dotted line products with cloud routers and L2 services and multi-cloud solutions. But then at the end of kind of 2024, cloud providers started to allow limited access to some of the network as a service platforms into their marketplaces. And, in 2025, one or two of the cloud providers started to announce their own kind of WAN solutions, right, across their own infrastructure. But then kind of right at the end of last year and early this year, we finally start seeing the cloud providers announcing network collaboration, right, real network collaboration offerings. And it's in their marketplaces so that the customers can now purchase true end-to-end connectivity services. So a kind of good example of this is going to be both Google and AWS will announce last mile products for their marketplaces at the events this year.
That's going to be big. Because that's been kind of the thing that they've always lacked, right? And I'd say network in general has never been, their main play. It's more of an afterthought. Storage and compute are king with them. But yeah, rounding out the IT stool, that third leg of the stool with the network aspects, both WAN and last mile, DC interconnect, what have you, that should make for more of a one-stop shop for them. But so yeah, tell me more about that. Like, what changed to make these partnerships between clouds and various types of service providers more attractive now than they were a few years ago?
Yeah, attractive is a good word, because, let's identify why these cloud providers did not want these service provider collaborations in the first place, and then what has changed. So, because previously, cloud providers would want to keep network as a service and service providers at arm's length from their enterprise customers and even their SaaS partners, right? This was kind of to monopolize on consumption-based costs that they modeled around their public internet egress traffic. Any customer will tell you, myself included, when I was a customer, is the familiarity around sticker shock from gigabit egress traffic on cloud services. These cloud providers, they keep the service providers in the vendor bracket. They buy infrastructure from the service provider, right? And they keep them, in that area, and they keep away from partnering with them to solution with customers at the product levels. And especially in the marketplaces where we see, in the last couple of years, the most growth for cloud services, because service providers work with fixed rate costs, not consumption-based costs, right? And for cloud providers, they would lose considerable income if service providers were flooding into their marketplaces with their network service products that sit outside of the cloud infrastructure. Network as a service was generally just not allowed in the marketplaces. And until last year, only near to network SaaS offerings like SD-WAN or firewall were allowed to be in the marketplaces as network services, right? And the key reason for this is because, cloud providers, they only want to co-sell within their borders, right, of their own infrastructure. This is one way to keep squeezing that revenue out as much as possible of their own infrastructure, right? And a SaaS provider like SD-WAN and firewall, for example, they run in the cloud. So they know they've got them captive and they're making captive revenue. So in regards to that, seeing all this, what has changed? Really, what has changed? Well, you know what I'm going to say? AI, of course, right? The evolution of machine learning to artificial intelligence has changed the landscape. Just as guilty as charged. Before Console Connect, I was Katon. And in Katon, we evolved from machine learning to AI designed live IP broadcast services overlay. And with that comes the advent of just data and data and data. So I'm going to say it. Yes, I'm going to say it. So I think you'd have a question teed up on that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, was going to come up either way. So I'm glad you brought it up. And it seems like this is also related to some of what we've been seeing around the cloud providers having to make it easier for the users to move between clouds. It seems like every episode I say the stat that it's over 90% of enterprises are using multiple clouds. That's just a reality that all the providers have to acknowledge, is that they're using more than just one. And so being able to facilitate that movement of data between the clouds has become a necessity. And I think, the providers themselves have realized that over the past few years, and they've started to make that a little easier.
Oh yeah. And I can incorporate that into the kind of the economics of network design when it comes to how AI has changed, this with the cloud providers and the network partners. So multi-cloud has become a common collaboration some cloud providers like Oracle have always had the hat, and many of the others have really kind of taken it to heart and joined in. The likes of AWS, one would think, oh, they're the bull in the china shop, but actually they've kind of softened their touch a bit and said, hey, we'll collaborate with everyone as well. And I think they've done it on the behest of their customers. They really do have a customer focus. They really do see the asset of that kind of collaboration when it comes to the advent of AI. Because when it comes to the advent of AI, there's an overwhelming and exponential increase in data flows from like everywhere. So data from AI requires that it come from anywhere and everywhere, not just databases and data centers. So yes, on one hand, multi-cloud is an absolute requirement because a lot of the customers and enterprises, they need to take data from A to B in different data centers or different locations or different. One cloud is for this and one cloud is for that, but not just that, not just from data centers, right? It also has to come from anywhere, a handheld device, a roving unit, a series of robotics, tablets, a meter.
As well as the databases of their supply chain or, the other tools that they leverage as part of their workflows.
Yeah. So it's now it's coming from anything that can produce ones and zeros, right?
That's a good way to put it. I love that.
Yeah. And really what we've seen from the economics of network design is the municipality of internet, or the inconsistency of that municipal internet is insufficient to support many of these AI demands, right? At some point, there's a need for consistent and committed capacity that can reach out farther and, again, get more and more of that data reliably back to where AI
a more
sits.
Stable, static routing environment for certain applications. That's absolutely critical. They need that latency to be within a very small range.
AI, it needs to sit. The brain, the NVIDIA brain, needs to sit somewhere where it can crunch numbers. Right? It's behind that green curtain, and it's doing its number crunching. On our side, we've sweated a lot of optical assets, a lot of the network infrastructure assets, and the economics of private network products from the NaaS and the platform on the service provider side. It's becoming competitive enough to start bidding for cloud connectivity right to the customer edge. So AI services that rely on consistent and accurate data, well, they'll invest in the private network services to ensure the AI data is running on uncongested, secure, and committed networks. So that's where we're seeing
designed with a lot of redundancy and resiliency in mind.
Exactly, right. Not just at the throughput format, but at the physical format too. Sometimes you'll see resiliency being developed and designed between two different physical formats in the network.
Absolutely. That's fascinating. So what does this mean for customers? What does it actually mean when they can buy more of that end-to-end service from their cloud provider? How does that change the dynamic?
Yeah. So for the customer, it's almost a given that the three kind of critical challenges are going to be resolved or at least going to be less of an issue for them, right? These are the things that they would have to kind of dig out themselves. And first and foremost is capacity and resilience, right? When the cloud provider and the service provider are working in conjunction, then there's already going to be a provisioned capacity for the service ahead of time in their infrastructure. And as much of the path as possible between the customer and the cloud is going to be turned up, activated, resilient, right? So this means a faster delivery time as well. We all know that when a customer has to face an access provider and then a cloud provider, the on-demand capability is a bit hampered unless one or the other has done their legwork. But if they're working in conjunction, a lot of that is co-witnessed and sorted. So that one component of those three challenges is there. The second is support. So cloud partners now working with a service provider to align on an SLA. This means one throat to choke scenario is really a truism here. And unlike the internet, which is what the cloud service providers usually led with when facing customers, private network does not settle with uptime as
with
the one SLA.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Best effort, uptime, right? Things like congestion and jitter and all these things that they would normally just brush aside. That no longer is the case. Private networking is an SLA that has a committed bit rate on the bandwidth, and your services is a more of a capability statement. So that's end to end, and the cloud provider and service provider will be supporting along that path. And the customer, if he's got a challenge or an issue, the way that clouds, the way that they log into their cloud platform and the way the support tickets are engaged, they're going to have a more immediate end-to-end capability to fight for the support that they need, and the SLA is going to be there. Now, the third challenge that kind of fits into that one as well, which is billing, or just the administrative overhead in general, right? All of that's lowered, right? Now you get a centralized position for all your billing and all your support and everything else, right? And I know from my own personal prospect, when I was a customer, I was going from London to the Philippines, from Marseille to Malaysia. Like, I was all over the place. I was going from Joburg to New York, or Brazil all the way to Kazakhstan. It was all over the place. And having to do that, having to be able to centralize the support and the billing, right, especially the billing, it meant that it would resolve a lot of headaches for me. And if this is going to be a part of that when it comes to an end-to-end service, the network as well as the cloud support, that's going to be a big headache that is resolved, right? Because many of these customers have multiple regions. I can't imagine a business today that doesn't go global, right? The world has shrunk so much. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
No, it's very interesting the way you've laid it out. It reminds me, I mean, it sounds like it's going to touch day 0, day 1, and day 2 of the experience of buying IT infrastructure, right? So day 0, the marketplace, right? How you go and shop. Day 1, turned up faster. Day 2, how it gets supported and billed. It should lead to improvement in all three of those. Well, last but not least, I guess looking ahead, do you expect the cloud providers to become more orchestrators of network services, or will customers still prefer to kind of assemble that best of breed solution with its individual components?
Yeah, and this is the bigger picture. There's a reason why I joined Console Connect. Network as a service, as an on-demand orchestrator of network. This was a gee whiz, oh wow feature that if you asked me 10 years ago, I would have been like, nah, not possible, can't happen. Right? The same thing with AI. Machine learning will never get smart enough to do that. Right? And of course, there's nothing better than being proven wrong, right? That's exactly why we're in this line of work. We thrive on it, right? And we move on. And that's what we're looking ahead here. And what I would say is, to some extent, cloud providers, they've always wanted to own the connectivity to their customers, and rightly so. Everybody wants to be able to, cloud provider, they want to make sure that their services work. The weakest link in the chain for a cloud provider is the quality of service for their customer. I don't care if it's a mobile phone or whatever it is, that point of touch all the way up into their cloud, is how do they make sure that that chain of custody all the way up to the applications that run in the cloud, that it's working right for them, and so they can maximize the experience. And I would say to some extent this is a step in the right direction, and that this collaboration will develop into mature partnerships that will benefit the customers for better integration when it comes to networking and cloud connectivity. The golden ring here is on-demand click and deliver networking, and arguably we see it. It's an eventuality that will be developed with some of the markets. It's entirely feasible, right? If the right infrastructure is in place, this is something that we're going to see very soon. They see it, we see it, right? This is where we work to a mutual goal, or work to a mutual end in that regard. Now, that being said, as of today, there is a bit of, some limitations in governance in the way of both network service providers and cloud providers in orchestrating this, right? And we just try to get it done in the partnerships that we have and develop it, right? So I expect this to hit certain strategic markets that have well-developed infrastructure. Look to see key cloud partners making this happen in key areas. You're going to see it in the metros first, of course. You're going to see it hit the low-hanging fruit like DCs and such. But then service providers that have mature infrastructure that's already lit and moving along, or other service providers like yourselves that maybe already have mobility in already integrated with our network infrastructure, to be starting to hook these things in and make it quick and accessible and available to the customers. These are the kind of things that will turn up fast. Now, outlying areas that may be a little bit challenging, big nationals where, if somebody is pretty far away, or if you have a construction site that maybe is somewhere else, it may be a little bit challenging. But of course, it's horses for courses. If wireless and mobility keeps progressing, look to see it enter the market as well for this, right? And I think I mentioned to you before, Google, they're going to need a counterpunch to AWS's low Earth orbit solution that they've got moving along right now, right?
Yeah, Leo is coming up hot, isn't it? And that really changes the game.
Coming up hot, and Starlink is sweating, right? And to be honest, for Google, there are some service providers out there, ourselves included, that will blend a lot of our mobility and wireless solutions that can do just that. But, we all have those partnerships in place. And these are the kind of solutions that go out there and just give more choices to the customers. So even though AI was a lot of driver for this, it's the happy kind of extra to this is that as service providers, we've seen this kind of synergy. We've kind of put our foot in the door and opened it wider and said, now that we're here, let's tag in more capability, more solutions. It's not just for AI anymore. It's for everything. It's going to be for all the customer needs here.
Yeah, no, the list of use cases, or the potential use cases, is quite long, actually. It's not just remote areas. It's, it's the low altitude economy. It's even consumer direct to cell satellite. Automotive has always been something that's been talked about, but now it's becoming more real. Things like emergency response and security. And, even I saw something the other day that, you can put a sensor on a bird in order to track their migration patterns. That's something that's being done now today. So that's right. Yeah. It's fascinating to look at those.
Pets.
Yeah.
But everything, service delivery, first responders, just infrastructure in general, third-party contracts with e-health services. We're point of sale, this is going to have a tremendous market capability for that.
Yeah. So yeah, really opening the aperture on what's possible.
Correct. Yeah. So again, it's getting that last mile end to end to the, bringing the cloud closer, just bringing the cloud closer. We've always wanted it. It's always been a challenge for the cloud because when it comes to a cost modeling perspective, they were, they making money off the internet egress was their popcorn and Coca-Cola of the movie theater business for them. We kind of had to say, like, you got to rein it in. You gotta work with us. The customer needs to. The world has changed. The customer needs the direct access, and thankfully, I would say that private network services has also made some changes. The assets have infrastructurally been more and more developed and designed and deployed to the point where they're more feasible. I mean, look at residential broadband and business broadband and its expansion, and optical networks, O&O deployments around the world have become a lot more reliable, and RAN deployments and mobility deployments have become a lot more. 5G has a growth now that's becoming acceptable as a wireless service for networking, in addition to LoE being deployed. So the world's getting lit, and to the point where we can actually start using it as a combined last mile service to support cloud and the customer to the cloud. And therefore, just getting the compute side of things and the application side of things closer to the people that need it.
So you said two things during this episode that I want to link to each other. At one point, you talked about globalization. You said the world's getting smaller, right?
Oh, yes.
And now you just said the world is getting lit, right? So it's both getting smaller and it's being lit up with more and more types of connectivity options that allow for more use cases to be fully addressed in a way that delivers a better experience. I'm really excited about where this is headed. It sounds like it would be a net win for users of all kinds, for there to be tighter integration, and for the industry as a whole, for there to be a tighter integration between these different types of providers. Well, I guess we should look at landing this plane. Any last words of wisdom, final thoughts, takeaways?
Well, it's a good time. It's a good time to be. It's a good time to be a collaborator.
Absolutely.
I got to say, it's a good time to be a collaborator. It's a long time coming, and this is the time to be in the trenches here, working with everybody and getting these things moving forward, because both the technology and the services are just moving so quickly that everybody's all hands on deck and moving things forward. So, it's fantastic. This is the happy place for all of us nerds.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for joining us, Daniel.
Much appreciated. Great talking to you again.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Trent.
Hey, thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like, rate, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.